Hello learners, finally we have now come to lecture number 46, and in this lecture we will be discussing about plea of necessity. In the past few lectures, as you have seen, whether IL is a self-contained regime, what is the role of applicable law for reconciling environmental concerns in investment dispute. In all these lectures, we've been looking at the possibility of integrating environmental principles within the field of international investment law. So, in all of these lectures, we've looked at the possibility how to include a provision on environmental protection within the BIT, or if that is not there, if that was there, then in that case, the tribunal will be forced to apply BIT because it is an applicable law. And if that is also not there, we could probably specify certain environmental principles to be part of applicable law. So that option is there. Even after the dispute has been initiated, then we looked at the principle of systemic interpretation, and then we looked at whether IL is a self-contained regime. So we concluded that there is excessive reliance on international rules. Therefore, the arbitral tribunal can also look at international environmental principles while deciding an investment dispute. Now, in this lecture, we are going to discuss about a concept, a defense that can be taken if at all a host state regulatory measures that was taken for the protection of the environment gets challenged, even if it was not mentioned in the BIT, even if it is for some reason it is not possible to invoke Article 31.3c, or if there is no international environmental principle with regard to a particular topic like tropical forest. Right, so in those cases, a reliance can be placed on the concept of plea of necessity or defense of necessity. So what is it? It is a well-established principle in the context of international law. Most of you must be aware how it works in case of international law. But in this video, we will have a relook at how plea of necessity operates within international law. So, plea of necessity, given its significance, we can also find it codified under Article 25 of Articles on for responsibility of states for internationally wrongful acts. So, there Article 25 clearly states that when plea of necessity can be taken, when it cannot be taken. Look at Article 25, it is drafted in a negative connotation, that is, that clearly signifies that Article 25 is that of an exceptional defense, and therefore it can be used as a defense only in most exceptional cases. If you look at the first paragraph clearly states that in case if a state takes an act and that violates any of its international obligation, especially something that it owes to other state or to the international community as a whole, then there is a possibility of precluding the wrongfulness of that act, provided the conditions mentioned in the first paragraph Article 25 are met. What are those conditions? The state can take the defense only when, if it takes the measure for protecting an essential interest. If it doesn't do so, then otherwise there is a grave and imminent peril. And also, while taking such a measure, it should also ensure that it does not impair the essential interest of some other state or states or the international community as a whole. So this is, you could see clearly certain phrases being used in Article 25 paragraph 1, essential interest, grave, imminent, peril, right. So all of this again, this adds as many conditions for invoking the plea of necessity. Now if we come to the second paragraph again clearly states when a state cannot invoke the plea of necessity, specifically if any of the international instruments exclude the application or exclude the possibility of reliance of necessity, then in that case this can't be done. Plea of necessity cannot be invoked. For instance, we could see some of the international conventions on humanitarian conventions on armed conflict, they specifically exclude reliance on necessity. So in those cases, then Article 25 paragraph 2 would be applicable. Then a country cannot take a plea of necessity. then otherwise also, this sort of the conditions that are attached pursuant to first paragraph, that clearly states that this plea of necessity can be taken only as an exceptional remedy. So that sort of is there. But what complicates the matter is, I mean, at least you have some content from Article 25, but the matter gets complicated while trying to ascertain when the or under what circumstances a plea of necessity can be taken. So clearly this all depends on defense of necessity, depends on the circumstances of the cases, and what circumstances qualify for satisfying the element of essential interest, also satisfy the element of grave and imminent peril is something that has to be seen. If we look at the past decided cases and also the commentary as well as certain opinion of scholars, then we can make some sense out of when the plea of necessity can be taken. Firstly, with regard to essential interest, the term is used in Article 25, essential interest, but then if we look into what is an interest, then when does that interest get qualified to be an essential interest, that may depend on country to country. If we look at one of the scholars, he had remarked that some countries may think that ecological interest is superior and it may consider an ecological interest to be an essential interest, while another country may accord the superior status to economic interest. And in case of any competing, if there is a circumstance where an economic interest is competing with that of an ecological interest, then some country may give preference to economic interest, whereas some country may give preference to ecological interest. So that also adds to the uncertainty. When this is completely country specific, how do we identify what is an essential interest for a state? Because plea of necessity can only be used for acts that were taken to protect their essential interest from an grave and imminent peril, right? So that sort of adds uncertainty to it. But then we can see that one of the scholars did not go to define essential interest, but had given certain examples, or he had stated that these are the circumstances where we can say that essential interest of the state is there. And those circumstances are when there is a threat to the existence of the state itself, when grave threat to the existence of the state itself, or its economic or political survival, or if a measure is necessary to protect a certain section of the population. And so while talking about these circumstances, this scholar also talks about protection of the environment in its territory or a part thereof, right? So protection of environment is also listed as one of the areas where we can say that is an essential interest to a state. So essential interest again may be completely fact specific, because it may differ from country to country. But with these opinions from the international law scholars, then we can sort of may arrive at a conclusion that whether a particular interest is an essential interest or not. Okay, so with regard to essential interest, at least we have some clarity. So what about grave and imminent peril? So grave again, and what is it imminent? So imminent probably may refer to the proximity in terms of time component. So grave, what does grave mean? So here there are many clarifications provided again by scholars and decided ICJ cases. So grave refers to an actual possibility of a threat, not just a mere apprehension. And it should be grave enough, it should be serious enough, the peril should be serious enough. So, and this has to be read in the context of the time component as well, that is imminent as well. So, imminent refers to the time duration. So, we know what is, how do we look at essential interest, how do we look at grave, how do we look at imminent, and peril is something, a danger from which the state had taken a measure to protect itself from. So this to some extent sort of gives a clarity. But what about the second point under the first paragraph of Article 25? So it also states, Article 25 states that the essential interest of other state or states or the international community as a whole should not be interfered with or impaired with. So in that case, there's an essential interest of the state which had taken the plea of necessity. Then there is another state and then essential interest of another state. So clearly, while applying the plea of necessity, then we are looking at two competing interests. So in Gapsikova case, ICJ has clarified that in case of two competing interests, then we look at which one outweighs which one. Right, in case of the country taking the plea of necessity, if their essential interest outweighs the essential interest of other state or states or the international community as a whole, then in that case, plea of necessity can be successfully taken. So this is what was clarified in Gapsikova case as well. And pertinent remark that we have to see at this juncture is that of James Crawford. He was a special rapporteur when the draft articles were adopted in 2001. So he made a remark stating that this plea of necessity, since it is written in such a way with certain conditions, it clearly sort of makes it as an exceptional remedy, and therefore a country can take the plea of necessity only when a country consciously knows that the action that it takes sort of violates the international obligation that it has assumed, but still it takes that action and then it wants to preclude the wrongfulness of that action. So therefore, we understand from the wording of Article 25 itself what sort of an exceptional recourse that this is. So a defense of necessity can be taken only when certain conditions are met. But in my opinion, therefore, that is what makes a plea of necessity an excellent defense, even in case of investment arbitration, when the country had not specified any provision with regard to environmental protection in the BIT, or for some reason not able to invoke the principle of systemic interpretation. So in that case, a defense of necessity can be pleaded for defending the measures that a country host state has taken for protecting the environment. So we will look at how certain decided cases had the ICJ cases had decided in the context of environmental protection while applying plea of necessity in the next video. Once we get a clarity on how plea of necessity is applicable in the context of environmental protection, then we can probably borrow this concept and apply it in international investment law as well. So please stay tuned for the next video where we will be discussing about the decided cases of ICJ where they have applied or where the country had pleaded the defense of necessity.